We're going to talk about some football. The first thing, though, that I want to talk about is I want to give some props to my boy, Kyle Lewis, named AL Rookie of the Year for 2020. He's the fourth Mariner to ever win Rookie of the Year, so big shout out to Kyle Lewis. Just sucks that we only got to see a 60-game portion of him for this year, but Kyle Lewis, I'm excited to see this kid in the future. I know a lot of people were giving him a lot of crap for being 25 years old coming in, but you know when you had the injuries that he had throughout his minor league career, it makes sense, and he rebounded and he rehabbed the shit, and he definitely is seeing that pay dividends. So congratulations, Kyle Lewis. Look forward to a very, very big career. Let's see here. What else we got? So a couple of things I want to talk about sports-wise before we get into our main topic tonight is, let me get switched over here real quick. Come on. There we go. Sorry, navigating two different screens here, and that didn't want to switch over for me. Why is it not giving me that? Hang on one second, guys. Error on the computer, 1 second. Sorry for the delay there. I don't know what was going on with my computer. It just completely shat the bed. Okay, some football recap for you guys. Thursday night game, Green Bay, San Fran. Not much to say about that one. Green Bay took care of business easily. I don't know anybody really was expecting San Fran to make this a competitive game with the amount of players they were down. Either way, Green Bay washed them. Wasn't even a game. I mean, literally, it was 14 points in the fourth quarter for San Fran. It wasn't even competitive from, 2 snaps into the game. One that I was a little surprised by was the Giants actually beating Washington this week. And the only reason I was surprised, there's 2 bad teams. And this is one thing that I hate when I do picks. Because you guys have seen it the last few weeks. I always like to do my picks every week. I hate picking the games between 2 bad teams. Give me a game with 2 good teams any day, and I can usually I'll do really good on those, and I love picking those kind of games because you guys have seen it a lot. Well, a lot of you guys have seen it when you've been on. I like breaking a lot of stuff down, and I go deep on some of this stuff. I can break them down, and I can look at it, and I love picking a good competitive, good game between 2 solid teams. But man, picking between Washington and the Giants this week was literally like picking between a rotten banana and a rotten orange, and you're just kind of like, which one do I want to take a bite out of? Yeah. I actually thought Washington was going to win, though, more based on their defense, because Washington's actually got a pretty dang good defense. They put a good pass rush on. But, I mean, I get it. Kyle Allen went down. He was their starting quarterback, whether he's good or not. Alex Smith is a good quarterback, but I don't think Alex Smith was ready necessarily for that game. And so now Alex Smith is going to be the quarterback going forward for Washington with Dwayne Haskins backing him up. So we could see Dwayne Haskins on the field again in reality due to a Kyle Allen injury. And if Alex Smith struggles or if Alex Smith gets hurt, we could see Dwayne Haskins end up still being the starter after getting benched and demoted to third string to begin with. How odd would that be? Either way, Washington I was expecting to win. Giants ended up barely squeaking by them. Score-wise, even though if you watch the game, it was actually more, it seemed pretty in control for the Giants for the most part the entire game. Titans taking down the Bears. This was actually one, I had picked the Titans in this game, and as I said, I'd rather pick 2 good teams than 2 bad teams. Titans ended up taking out this game, and this was in full control for the Titans the entire game. Chicago didn't really make it a game until, 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, whatever it was. They finally scored their second touchdown and brought it back to a 1-score game. I had Titans on this one. I think Titans, I'm surprised, didn't blow the doors off Chicago. Chicago's defense is really what kept them in this game, which is not surprising. We've had this discussion before. Chicago's got a badass defense. But Titans should have really blown the doors off of them more than they did. I'm kind of surprised they only put up 24 on them. The Vikings steamrolling the Lions was one that I didn't see coming. Now, I know Vikings fans, I'm sorry. You guys are having a shitty season this year. It is what it is. But I actually had the Lions pegged to win this game. I also did not, and that's my fault, did not factor Dalvin Cook into the equation because he has had some back and forth with some injuries, even though he's played in 7 games this year and leads the league in rushing. So he's played in less games than every other running back who is in the top 5, and yet has more rushing yards than all of them. And he has more rushing yards than what 8 NFL teams combined, or I should say their entire rosters have, which is insane. Dalvin Cook is an absolute monster. But Vikings may have just saved their season. Now they're probably not going to be a playoff contender. I really don't think in the NFC that they're going to be able to come back with 5 losses already. They're 3-5. I don't think they're going to come back and make a push for the playoffs. It could happen if 1 or 2 other teams really fall flat on their face that are contenders right now. I just don't see it happening. But Vikings may have at least just saved their season. They could turn it around now and end up, they could end up 10-6. They could end up 9-7. I don't know if you really consider that a successful season, but the way they started, that could be, you could almost say that's self-salvage season. The one close game that really surprised me, I thought the Chiefs were just going to absolutely roll the Panthers. And the Panthers actually made it a close game. Teddy Bridgewater actually looked pretty good. They were able to put up 31 points on a pretty solid defense and an opportunistic defense. The last 2 weeks, the Chiefs' defense has actually had multiple turnovers in every game and sacking the quarterback. And so I was actually kind of surprised to see the Chiefs not force a turnover against the Panthers. So they played good football, and Christian McCaffrey came back. Now, from what I read, Christian McCaffrey looks like he got hurt again in the fourth quarter, hurt his shoulder. So he might end up missing substantial time again, which sucks, especially for the Panthers fans. We're coming up to midpoint of the season. Now, Panthers are out of it. I mean, they're 3-6. So again, kind of like the Vikings, they're not going to make their way back into the playoffs. But Christian McCaffrey was their bright spot of coming back for the rest of the season. Now he may miss another 2-3-4 weeks. Now, granted, we had this discussion before. Mike Davis is really good, and he hasn't really gotten a fair shake in the NFL. And I do think that he can, definitely tote the rock when needed and be a really good replacement for Christian McCaffrey. And I really hope that the Panthers allow him to sign a contract with another team looking for a starting caliber running back. Because I've said this since he was in San Francisco when he was drafted. The kid's a stud, and he really deserves to be a starting running back on an NFL roster. Hopefully he gets that, because it's not going to be with the Panthers. I mean, they just gave McCaffrey a ton of money, so they're not going to demote McCaffrey, and it's not, McCaffrey's not going to take second fiddle or shared work time with Mike Davis. Another one of the games, Texans Jaguars, again, 2 bad teams, really tough to pick. I had the Texans picked in that one. Didn't really see. That one could have gone either way. And really, to me, the deciding factor was Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt versus who's on the Jaguars defense and a rookie quarterback. Now, Luton played very well and put up a lot of stats, and a lot of people are chasing his rookie cards now. So they're going to explode now. If you haven't gotten on it already, it's probably too late. I want to say his autograph rookie cards numbered at a 99 and higher are already going up into the 80s, 90s, $100. So it's probably, I wouldn't even consider chasing it. But maybe dig through your boxes. You may have landed one already and you have no clue, because when you pulled it, you went, huh, 6th round quarterback. Yay, dollar hit, dollar box. Let's see here. Ravens taking down the Colts. Had the Ravens pegged for that game, but I thought the Colts were going to make it a closer game. The Colts, we're going to get into that in our topic later. The Colts have one of the best defenses in the NFL. We'll get into some rankings again in our main topic, but I thought the Colts were going to make a better game out of this one and hold the Ravens to a little bit less. Now, again, Lamar Jackson struggled a little bit because he tends to struggle against good defenses. They just happen to get a few good plays, and they run the ball well. They do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm a Steelers fan, and coming from a Steelers fan, Ravens are a legit team. They are. They're a very good franchise. I got a lot of respect for the Ravens. I was, for me personally, I was hoping the Colts were going to take them down, obviously. Give us another game cushion in the AFC North. Would have loved to have seen it. I didn't anticipate it. I anticipated the Ravens winning that game, though. That is true. Scott just brought up a good point. It's really tough to rely on Phillip Rivers to help you. Really is. And that's... I don't hate Phillip Rivers at all. I think he's a very good quarterback. He has what I've always said since, I don't know, maybe year 5, year 6. He reminds me a lot of Brett Favre. He's got the gunslinger mentality. He throws picks. Now, he doesn't throw picks at the rate of an Eli Manning or Brett Favre did, because Favre's thrown 100+ more interceptions than Eli Manning or than Phillip Rivers ever did in his career. But he can throw, and he throws for a lot of touchdowns. He's had multiple seasons of 30+ touchdowns in his career. Throws for a lot of touchdowns. He's a lot of times though in game-winning situations, he throws that bad pick. And it's that knife in the back type, just gut-wrenching. You thought you had a shot. Oh, Rivers, come on. What'd you do that for? And again, he'll put up a lot, especially if you're talking fantasy. He'll put up a lot of points for you fantasy-wise because he usually gets a lot of yardage, especially with the cast of receivers he had when he was in San Diego / L.A. Even when they had a ton of injuries to the receiving corps, he was still putting up 4,000 yards on a consistent basis, anywhere from 3,700 to 4,000 to 4,500 passing yards because he can throw the rock. He can slang it. There's no doubt about that. He just has that dependability issue where is he gonna screw this up in the fourth quarter by throwing an interception? And he's done that quite a few times. But either way, Ravens took that game pretty handily. I know Seahawks fans are gonna like this, bringing this one up. Bills taking down Seahawks. I was really on the fence with this game. This was a tough call for me. This is the type of game that I really love to look at and make my picks on. I actually had the Bills defense getting annihilated by Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson come on, they put up 34 points on the Bills. The Bills defense is not what it was the last 2 years. Now, granted, Russell Wilson turned the ball 4 times. Wasn't it 3 interceptions and a fumble, or 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, something like that? Either way, he turned the ball over 4 times. A lot of points came off of those turnovers, which helped with that 44 points. Really hurts a team like Seattle, especially with a defense as bad as theirs has been playing this year. And again, that's another one we're going to get into later today, because our topic tonight is teams that should be panicking. Teams above 500 that lost in Week 9 that potentially should panic. So obviously the Seahawks and Colts being 2 teams that lost in Week 9, we'll be getting into that a little bit later, and we're going to break that down. Not that it's an excuse, but we were down to our 4th string running back. True. But in the fourth quarter, you don't rely on your running game when you don't rely on your running back with Russell Wilson anyways. Typically in the second half, Russell Wilson tends to take over a game with his legs when the game is on the line. I mean, Steelers have played him time and time again where he's killed us in the fourth quarter. And that's what he typically does. Right when you think you've got the Seahawks pinned and you're up 2 scores even, all of a sudden you cannot stop them from converting into a first down because Russell Wilson will take off, and all of a sudden there's 20 yards that he just gained on you, and he's constantly doing that. And so I never thought that they were out of that game anyways. The problem that he was having was he was throwing interceptions, and they had, 21 points off turnovers, which will kill any team. The fact that they made it a 34, a 34 to 44, so they made it a 10-point game. The fact that the Seahawks made it a 10-point game should be a testament to how good their offense is, not only how bad their defense is. Their offense is equally as good as their defense is bad. So, there's at least light at the end of the tunnel for the Seahawks fans. But again, we're going to get into that here a little bit more in our main topic tonight. Broncos-Falcons. Here was an interesting one. Again, two bad teams playing. I always want to pick the Falcons. And I know it bites me in the ass more often than not, especially this year. They actually won this game, though. Almost lost it. The Falcons have proved that they can play defense. The Falcons have proved that they can put up points. The problem with the Falcons is that they've proved that they cannot be dependable in the fourth quarter. About halfway through the third quarter is when they collapse. And they can't hold on to a lead. And it's been that way ever since the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And it's going to continue to be that way until they can get that monkey off their back. Maybe this game was that get the monkey off the back. It could be. I don't know. They could have just turned around their fortune for the next 5 years with hanging on to that lead. We'll see. I don't know. But that was a tough pick, definitely. I did have Atlanta picked to win that game because I do think that they were the better team. And they are the better team. They just have their struggles. Oakland and the Chargers. I really wanted to see the Chargers get a win in this one. I wanted to see Justin Herbert get a win in this one. Taking down the Raiders would have been massive for his development and his mindset moving forward. When you're a rookie quarterback and you have literally won one game in 6, 7, that's got to play on the psyche. It's got to really hurt, and I don't want to see such a talented kid end up fizzling out because of his mentality of being consistently losing. Now, he's got success in the stat book. Nobody can argue how good Justin Herbert has been playing. Their defense has been giving up points. Yes, he's turned the ball over, but there's also been some boneheaded calls by Anthony Lynn. Now, the Raiders looked good. But again, it's not hard to look good against the Chargers when they're playing really bad defense. And they do have some good pieces on their defense. It's just not coming together right now. Hopefully, I'd like to see the Chargers win next week. So, like I said, I want to see Justin Herbert gain some momentum. I think once you get that kid rolling and they start racking up W's, that could be a potentially very dangerous team. Scott, they're simply cursed. Life of the Falcons, yep. Fire Ken Norton Jr. and Dan Quinn back as DC. Can't argue with that. Dan Quinn was an excellent defensive coordinator. And I hear that he's looking for a job right now. I don't know who told me that, but from what I understand, he's collecting some unemployment right now. Steelers-Cowboys. What can I say about a team going into the game that was 7-0 against a team going into a game that was 2-6? You're expecting an absolute bloodbath, and Steelers fans are used to this, where it's it's a heart. I mean, you're literally having a heart attack for half the game. Now, as I've said multiple times this year, and I think the Steelers are a phenomenal team, and I try to keep my bias aside when it comes to analysis. Their offense is clicking at certain times. Offensive coordinator issue. I don't like his play calling. Ben does fantastic when he's in the no huddle. Defense was struggling again with the run game. They just, I don't know what happened these last two games, but ever since playing, ever since the start of the Ravens game, they can't stop the run. Now, I will say that I do believe that Devin Bush was a massive factor in the run game, more than what people were letting on. But I do believe that Avery Williamson coming in from the Jets, who actually leads the league in tackles, what a lot of people don't realize, he leads the league in tackles by almost 20 tackles. Okay? Both solo and combined. So I think that could really help. He could be that centerpiece for the defense that they're missing without Devin Bush in there. Cowboys made it a game. Garrett Gilbert, been in the league since 2014, and that was his first NFL start. Interesting story behind that kid, and who knows if he'll get another start. Will they go back to Ben DiNucci, or will they move on to whatever that other kid's name is that is second season or whatever. Cowboys are a train wreck right now. They really are. Got a couple more injuries that happened again this week. Trayvon Diggs is going to be out for a couple weeks by the sounds of it. Could potentially miss the rest of the season. That's a huge, huge hit to their defense that was already beat up. So I just don't think it's going to... Cooper Rush, thank you. I don't think it's going to pan out well for Dallas. They have zero shot, in my opinion. They have zero shot at winning the division. And even if they did win the division, nobody in the NFC East is going to win a playoff game. The Eagles could. They could. They get healthy at the right time. They could maybe knock somebody off in the playoffs. They've got to get healthy and stay healthy is the problem. They are absolutely cursed. Deshaun Jackson got back for half of a football, and he's out for the season again. So I don't see the Cowboys making any progress this year at all. And Jerry Jones came out today and said Dak's his guy. Well, Jerry, it's time to put up or shut up. Sign him to a freaking contract or move on. You can't sit here and say that somebody's your guy and then not pay the guy. So if you're going to franchise him again, you're going to end up paying him more money than you would have under contract. So either let him go or focus on moving forward. Here's the question. If the Cowboys end up a top 3 pick, maybe they do go after quarterback. Maybe they do go after Justin Fields. Maybe they do go after Trey Lance. So there's potential that they could end up with that top 3 pick because they're a bottom 5 team right now. If they're a top 5 pick, why not go after quarterback? Let Dak go, save all the cap money. Then you have tens of millions of dollars to sign or extend or whatever you need to, and you've got a gunslinger coming in because both Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields can throw the ball. That's proven. So maybe they do that. Who knows? All right, enough about Cowboys. Oh, man, Dolphins in the playoff hunt. Who would have thought that? A Ryan Fitzmagic-led start to the season keeps them alive. Bench Ryan, put in Tua. Tua is now 2-0, and all of a sudden they're 5-3 and in the playoff hunt. They are literally just on the outside right now looking in. The only difference is the Raiders are 2-0 in the division, and the Raiders technically have the number 7 spot in the playoffs right now. Huge shock. Didn't see that coming at all. And the Dolphins have looked like they're playing inspired the last 2 weeks, ever since Tua came in. I don't know if it's his leadership ability, if he's just elevating everybody on the team to that level, but man, that kid, that whole team is balling out. They took down a 5-2 Cardinals team. A team that had every opportunity to take over the NFC West. With Seattle losing earlier in the day, they could have come in to Miami and been like, man, let's do this. Actually, I think it was at Arizona, but they could have come in and been like, let's do this. Let's cement us as the division leaders. We can go up a half game on the Seahawks because of the win over the Seahawks. they could have completely shook it up, and then they just couldn't pull it off. You almost thought they were gonna tie that at the end of the game. I thought they were gonna win it, and they ended up falling just short. It was the field goal fell 2 yards. It was a 49-yard field goal, and it actually fell short of the bar. Just amazing. And then you had the absolute dismantling of Tom Brady. Saints, we'll call a spade, beat the shit out of the Buccaneers. I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. That was an absolute beating that the Saints team laid on the Bucs. They couldn't do anything. The first, what was it? I was seeing the first 10 drives until they got their field goal in the fourth quarter. 10 straight drives ended in either punt or turnover or turnover on downs. 10 straight drives led by Tom Brady that had Gronk, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. Come on. 10 straight drives? Get out of here. Saints, yeah. Now, does that cement the Saints as being the team to beat in the NFC? Because now they've taken down the Bucs twice, and the Bucs were kind of viewed as that team by some. You had Seattle lost, the Buccaneers lost. Two of the top 4 teams in the NFC lost this past weekend. So that also takes us into our topic for tonight that we'll get into shortly. And then we saw Monday Night Football game that was one to forget. Patriots-Jets, where the Patriots squeaked by a bad Jets team. A bad Patriots team barely beat a bad Jets team. The bad Patriots team, led by Cam Newton, still coached by Bill Belichick, and they're 3-5 now. A Belichick-led 3-5 team. Haven't said that in 20 years. But Patriots won by 3 in Patriot fashion in a game where Footsteps Flacco was dealing. Flacco was playing shades of 2010 Ravens level of play. He was looking good. I was shocked, and it was kind of fun seeing Flacco wearing Jets colors and not Ravens colors for a change. It was kind of fun seeing Footsteps be a good quarterback again. He drove me crazy. Now, the funny thing was a lot of people were giving him crap because he was just so on the sideline, even after throwing a pick. It was like no emotion to the guy. Stone cold killer. It was hilarious. But I actually thought Jets could have pulled that off. When it boils down to it, it was a last-second field goal won the game. So, anyway, weekly recap done. Sorry, I've kind of missed a bunch of those comments. Yeah. Well, Arians should have called out Brady. I mean, let's face it, Brady was off the mark. He was throwing bad balls, and he did not have command of that offense one bit. It was almost like New Orleans got in his head early in the game, and he didn't recover, which is odd for somebody to get in Tom Brady's head. Really is. It's not often you see that, and I was kind of, and it's funny. I have Tom Brady in fantasy football this year because he's not a bad play. Thankfully, this week I started Kyler Murray, which he is my number one, and Tom Brady is more just my fill-in on either a bad matchup, which the only week I've played Brady was when Murray was on bye, because Murray's just been an absolute monster this year, fantasy-wise. And but Brady's put up 40-plus points on multiple occasions this year, so I was tweeting out during the game, Brady had 0 fantasy points through 3 quarters of play. And I'm like, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, when was the last time that happened? I've had Brady before in leagues, and I've also played against Brady multiple times in fantasy football leagues, and I can't recall any time where he's ever finished a game with fewer than 10 points. And he put up two fantasy points from the legendary Tom Brady. Legendary Tom Brady. 2 fantasy points. Just blew my mind. That was fun for me to type, and it's not because I hate Brady. I just got so tired of him beating the Steelers. He literally had the Steelers number for years, and him and Belichick. Now, I do think that Bill is struggling post Tom. Now, and I said last week, part of the reason why I believe the Patriots are struggling because they also had a league high 8 players opt out of this year. I think Bill is struggling with life after Tom, and I do believe that Tom is going to struggle life after Bill. And part of that was because Tom had more control of the team in terms of rotation of players coming in and out, play calling. They trusted each other a lot, and Tom and Arians don't have that. It's clear. And Arians will call out Tom Brady, as Scott pointed out. Arians will call out Tom Brady, no problem, in a press conference. Belichick would never do that. Would never call out a player in a press conference. So, 2 different coaching styles. Now, are we going to see that come to a head? A lot of people were talking about that when Arians did that earlier this season. Are we going to see a problem where that affects Brady mentally, or where they start butting heads? I don't think so, because immediately last time it happened, Tom Brady nipped it in the bud. We talk about it, we do this, and we move forward. It's all good. But when somebody continues to do that, does it affect their mentality, and will they get frustrated with it and finally get to a point where they're like, look, stop doing that, talk to me about it first, and then you don't have to bring it up to the media. So who knows what's going to happen? I wouldn't be disappointed if the collapse happened. I like Bruce Arians, don't get me wrong, offensive coordinator for the Steelers for years. Good cat. Very good head coach. And I expected him to do great things. He did great things in Arizona. He did great things with the Colts when he was the interim when Chuck Pagano had cancer. I really wanted to see him go to the Browns, and not because I wanted the Steelers to whoop on him twice a year. I legitimately want the Browns to get out of being the basement dweller, to get out of being the ugly step sibling that the entire NFC or the entire AFC North beats on 2 times a year. I wanted to see Bruce Arians come in and correct the ship and make them a contender. And a lot of that's because my personal feelings, being a Steelers fan, because I love AFC North football, when the AFC North is cooking, the Steelers get better. That's how I look at it. If you can win the AFC North, you have a damn good shot at a Super Bowl. That's the way I look at it. That is true, Connor. Patriots have not drafted well. In fact, I just saw a screen grab the other day where the Patriots haven't drafted a Pro Bowler since 2012, I believe it was. It's been like 7, 8 years, 9 years since they've drafted a Pro Bowler, which is a horrible, horrible stat to have. Especially a team that's known for drafting well. Really? I can count off a dozen Seahawk players that were drafted after the first round that weren't expected to be who they were. I can count a dozen Steelers players that were drafted after the first round that weren't expected to be who everybody thought they were. There's teams who have blown Bill Belichick out of the water with drafting over the last decade. And is it that Bill is... My question is Bill struggling or losing it when it comes to talent evaluation? Is he overwhelmed because he is the GM and head coach, and every time there's another piece that moves out of the front office, he takes on more responsibility? Is that part of the problem? Does he need to have more assistants hired? Does he need to have a GM hired who will essentially work for him? I mean, they could hire a GM that'll work for him. He could still be in charge of player personnel. But Is there too much on his plate as he gets older where he's losing the ability to process or process it fast enough to get through the draft, to get through trading, to get through. They didn't really make any moves at the trade deadline. They picked up one wide receiver from the Dolphins, which is rare to see an interdivision trade at the trade deadline. But they picked up a wide receiver because they need it. They've just been obliterated at wide receiver. None of them can stay healthy, as bad as the Eagles almost. So, does Bill Belichick getting, I don't want to say old, but he's getting advanced age, is he losing his command of talent evaluation? One has to wonder. Let's see. Yep, they've missed on every first and second rounder recently. Absolutely.